Hey toy fans, Aaron here. Today taking a look at the 1996 release of Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight on the Power of the Force 2 card. He did originally come, as you see here, on the red card and then was released on the green card back. On this one we got a nice image of Darth Vader in the top left side, that Star Wars Power of the Force logo to the right. Through the blister you do see your included action figure along with his accessory. And in this case, since this is the only way I have this particular version of the character, the one inside the bubble is considered the tan vest version of this Luke. As we go through the figure that I have opened up, you'll see his vest is all black. And, you know, that was a big deal back in the day, getting the tan vested version. On the left side, you got an image of Luke Skywalker as we saw him in the movie on the sail barge, with his name and those accessories being listed underneath. Here's a look at the back of the card, where on the top half is going to be your bio information about Luke Skywalker, what's happening at this point in the movie, Return of the Jedi, that is. And then the bottom half of the card is dedicated to your other vehicles, the deluxe set of figures that were available, the comic packs that were released for Shadows of the Empire, and then those individually carded figures that were also available. And the figure did get one other release that's worth a notable mention here, and that is what's considered the Theater Edition cardback. When the trilogy was re-released in the theaters as the Special Edition, and in particular when Return of the Jedi hit the theaters, certain theater chains had, I think it was like 50 of these available at each location, or the first 50 people in line anyways could get the figure. So here's a look at that card back. It was released on the green card, which is what was standard for the line at that time. Same looking Luke Skywalker in the bubble. And then on the left side, instead of the photo of Luke Skywalker, you're getting the Special Edition Trilogy logo. So that looks great. Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight Theater Edition, carrying the branding underneath that. And then running along the bottom is your branding of this being a Return of the Jedi Special Edition opening day figure, which was originally planned for March 7th, 1997. But, I don't remember the reasons why, but the release date did get pushed back a week. So it actually came out March 14th. And then on the back of that card, pretty much carrying the theme of the line at that time, you got to look at Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight inside Jabba's palace, with his bio information onto the left side. And then below that are your various action figures, an assortment of vehicles, and a few deluxe figures that were also available in the line at that time. And now taking a look at them out of the packaging, and I've said this before on the Power of the Force reviews that I've done, I am looking back at these figures for the time frame that they were released in. That's how I'm basing my opinion on them. Certainly not going to compare them to figures that we are receiving nowadays. It's just apples and oranges. They're not the same. So keeping that in mind as we go through this figure. First up as presentations go, I think the figure does look great again for its time. I was very excited when this figure got released. I did not have a Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker figure growing up, so this was my very first action figure of Luke in this outfit. I like the presentation first with the outer shell of a cloak. It is a pretty firm plastic. Still slides on and off the figure pretty easily, but there's not much for pliability to it. It is going to hinder any extreme articulation, and you're not going to get his right hand really coming out of the shell all that much. But at least it is kind of draped off to the side. You've got some room to place the lightsaber in there, which I'll show at the end of the video. But overall, I think it gives them a nice presentation, like I said. I like the draping effect, the various folds that are sculpted running from top to bottom on the cloak itself. Nice drape over the shoulders, and I like the way the hood looks as it's up. Plenty of wrinkles and folds sculpted in there. And I think there's arguments that can be made on both sides, whether a figure should be soft goods or hard plastic for a cloak or a cape or robe, whatever. For me, since my figures basically just stand there on the shelves and I don't do anything with them, I like the look that is offered by having a molded cloak. Sliding this off, getting a better look at the figure itself, and boy, with that cloak off, this is one tall looking action figure. Now at that time, they weren't really into doing scaled versions of the action figures to each other. Chewbacca, Darth Vader, Luke, Leia, they were all pretty much the same height. And this one is indeed looking pretty tall. Just for fun, going to slide him next to one of the more recent Luke Skywalkers. I didn't look at which particular version I grabbed, but it's pretty evident that Luke did eventually get more properly scaled. As the line has grown over the last, 25, 26 years, you can certainly see that the figures have come a long way. Going in for a closer look at the head, sculpting is carrying the way that Luke Skywalker looked within the early versions of the line. Not the best resemblance, but I do think that, kind of hidden within that rough sculpt is just maybe a small resemblance. Very, very small. The sculpting we did get, though, hair detailing looks great. You got some definition of some various strands of hair in there. Big bright blue eyes painted in and nicely placed. Getting down to the chest and arms of the figure. Certainly not as much steroid effect being placed on this version of Luke that we had with the initial launch of the line. Things did start to slowly get a little bit more appropriate for the look of the character. But we are indeed still in that beefier look. Overall, nice black sleeves. Mine, could just be age, but one arm is a little bit of a deeper black, I'd say, than the other one. But again, this guy's been sitting on my shelf for 20 years. You do have his signature black glove on his right hand where the left hand is done in the skin tone color. Obviously, huge hands. That was something else for these early figures, was the hands were just massive. Aside from that, some various folds and wrinkles sculpted into the arms. You've got a slight bend in there. So that certainly highlights the stressing of the fabric due to that bend at the elbow. The vest, as I mentioned earlier, you saw on the card he was tan vested there. In this case, a little more appropriate. It's kind of an off black color being done for the vest. And then inside that vest, you've got some texturing being done in there for his inner tunic and also that darker black color. Across the back, nothing really special here, just some various stress lines of the fabric as it goes into his belt and then extends out to the bottom. And speaking of that belt, no other belt detailing being done other than, I guess you could say that, it's that separately sculpted piece just below the waist articulation and then where the legs attach. So you can certainly see what looks like a belt, but no other detailing or anything to really highlight that feature. And then getting down to the legs of the figure, he does have a bit of an action stance to him, a very wide stance for the legs. Decent sculpting for the pants. You got some muscle definition of those thighs coming through, especially in the upper part, and then it gets to the kneecaps. You got plenty of fabric being sculpted for some wrinkles, some bunching up as it extends into his boot. And then for those boots, you've got a nice gloss black paint to them. Decent smooth sculpting otherwise, with a bit of wrinkling being done around the ankles. As for the articulation, everything's basic here. Your head just rotates a full 360. Same thing at the shoulders for each arm. You get your full rotation at the waist. And then your legs bend straight out, even a little bit past that. And the legs definitely go way back. So for accessories, well, we already talked about his cloak. So really just his green lightsaber. It's got a very nice, vibrant green color to it. I'd say pushing fluorescent or a neon green, I think still looks great. And then for the hilt, once again, you weren't getting a ton of detailing in the line at that time or even special paint applications aside from just a base silver color. And that's definitely what we're getting here. It certainly has a resemblance to the saber that he used in the movie, and it fits well in his hand. One other thing to note about the hilt of this lightsaber is there were two versions released. The one that we're looking at here, I believe, was the more common release. You'll notice around the midpoint of the saber, he's got these 4 rings that are extending out. They're a convex-shaped ring. Looking at the one that I have still in the card, each of those rings are concave. So aside from the tan vest, there was also that running change done to the figure. And that's going to wrap this one up. Overall for me, like I said, this was my very first Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker action figure, and I still love it. I think there was a certain charm in the line, and while over time we've certainly received many other Luke Skywalker figures that were much better in appearance, for me this particular release, this particular line even, represents something very special. It was my chance to start a collection. It was my chance to own figures that I'd never owned before. And I kind of hate to admit it now, but I paid a lot of money to get that tan-vested Luke Skywalker, so I better love this figure. So that's going to wrap this one up. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this figure in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.